Hi there, ho there, and hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. We've got a crew of three on hand today, but before we get into that, I just want to kind of say that if you have been, or if you have friends or relatives or people you know that have been affected by Hurricane Ian, our thoughts are with you. We certainly hope that you and those that you love and enjoy company with are okay. They're calling this thing maybe one of the worst that's ever fought its way through Florida and is now over on the East Coast a little further up. Certainly here in Louisville, we don't reason too much with hurricane season unless we get remnants of the rain of one that goes through. But all accounts and everything I've seen on this one is it's most likely probably the roughest one that we've seen in the 21st century for sure, and maybe going back 100 years or so. So our hearts, our thoughts, and our prayers are with you if you've been affected, and if you want to help these people out. Not recommending that you do any one certain way or anything. There are plenty of ways you can donate and help. I'm a Red Cross guy, and that's who I give to. But you can certainly find many ways to help these people who have been displaced and seen their hopes and dreams and homes shattered. So,
And
thoughts are with
thanks
you, gang.
and thanks to Dave Watson for the update on the comments the other day. I was worried about him and Joe Hill, two of our regular readers and commenters, or live down in that area in Bradenton area, so which is one of the worst hit spots, really. They both got out, so they were safe, which is good to hear.
Yeah, David, down in Bradenton, they
Yep.
got out in time and they went to Joe Hill's cabins up in Gallenberg.
Yeah.
And guess who was up there with them?
Yeah.
Joe
Joe
Hill,
Hill. Yeah. That's
because he was in
ready.
Naples and they got out of Naples in a hurry.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I thought he might be up there. And then we're asleep. The first morning we're up there and there's a banging on the door about 8 o'clock, and it's Joe Hill standing there wanting to take me out to breakfast. Okay, that'll
Yeah.
be fine. But they are safe and certainly,
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
because the core of that storm really came ashore in Florida, right in Sarasota, Bradenton area, right
yeah,
in there. So yeah,
Fort Myers as well.
yeah,
So all that certainly, is dangerous stuff. And I hope St. Petersburg Beach didn't get it as badly as they were first thinking, because I've got some very good memories from their
yeah.
previous trip years ago. But certainly thoughts out to you folks. We hope
Hmm.
you're doing okay. This is a part of the show where we kind of catch up with the guys here. And Case has been a silent partner so far on the broadcast this morning, but he's in here with us along with Jeffrey, you just heard. So let's kind of start with Case today, buddy. What's going on in your world?
Not much. Just enjoying the fall weather that's come in this week. It's been really nice to be able to get outside and not immediately start sweating. So all the exterior home stuff continues. We got the deck is under contract, so that'll get started up next week for the new deck, and then some more exterior stuff to take care of before the all the exterior painting happens. So we'll be enjoying some of that weather this afternoon and tomorrow, trying to continue our preparations there.
And do we have a brick update? Are we still at 800 firm, or is it dropping?
No, no, we're down to about 450 ish. Um, the Mason when Mason come last week, they used about 25, and then uh, brought a second or brought a third guy for the second day of work who spent his whole day just offloading brick. So they took all the brick that was on the deck, which is good because that means we don't need to move it twice. Um, and so now I just got a stack of brick still out in the yard and a pile of brush that I made next to it. So still a lot of stuff to get rid of, but not any on the deck, which is nice.
Brick is on a bull market then over there at the Hoskins household. And you put a little brush next to it. So you're really wrong with the bees here. You got brick, you've got brush.
Yeah.
Nice, Nicely done. What's next?
He went out for breakfast this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Breakfast this
It's
morning.
all
Did,
BRs too.
Yeah.
did we have bagels this morning? Perhaps
Didn't,
maybe or
no.
bacon maybe? Huh?
I think there
No
was some
more.
in the grits, but
Bacon and the grits. Well, the G doesn't count. If we're bee associating right now, yeah, you'll probably be cheering for the Killer Bees Sunday, I would assume.
that would
Georgia.
be incorrect.
Okay, wrong on that one. All right. Jeff, with us, Jeff and I were discussing Bitcoin, another B earlier, and the demise of that, or certainly our observations on it. So, if there are certain people listening to the podcast today who invested in it, we'll send a wreath and some, nice condolence letters.
Yeah.
But, what's up with you, Jeff?
Not too bad. Interesting week at work. The company that I work for now, of course, I work remote, is they're based in West Palm Beach, Florida. So not really directly at the path of that hurricane, but certainly got some hits from it. And a lot of people in the company are in the Florida area, including one of the guys that's on the team that I manage. He actually lives in Sarasota. So he did get out. He skedaddled over to Fort Lauderdale for a few days. He is back in his. I've heard from him. He's back in his house. He has power. He has water. He's in pretty good shape. He said his fence is pretty much toast, but that's pretty minor in the overall scheme of things for a nearly Cat 5 hurricane, which is what that was when it came ashore. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure, better a fence than a living room. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that was great news to hear from him. That's all the worse it was for his situation. So.
Yeah, once again, certainly there's a lot of stuff still needs to be done out there as far as cleanup goes, but the death toll isn't as bad as what they were thinking it might be originally.
Yeah, it could have been really bad, and
you just don't mess with Mother Nature, and Mother Nature had something to say earlier. Maybe she's upset with the NCAA Division I football results so far this year, and said, "Florida schools, forget that. We're headed here, girls." But no, seriously. Hope that all is well with them. As for me, I am still getting ready to go into week 2 of the bathroom remodel. It is interesting.
Sounded ominous.
And was meant to be full dramatic undertones as well. Case the bathroom remodel.
Yeah.
Book 2. The contractors arrive. It's here's the major thing I was talking with somebody about the other night on that. We're a 1-bathroom house. I don't have that spare bathroom up in the basement or down in the basement or up on the second floor or anywhere else I can go to. It's pretty much it. And when everything starts disappearing one by one, first of all, the shower is now complete. The tub is gone. The shower is installed. That's wonderful. But the toilet and the vanity are gone now. So we're obviously having to make some other arrangements as far as doing the essentials, as far as washing face, brushing teeth, experimenting in different ways of going to take bowel movements.
You guys got a porta potty on site?
Fortunately, my wife does have school keys to the grade school right down the street. And so I've been going in to use the little boys' toilet on the first floor.
Kitty toilet.
Yeah, emphasis on little, apparently.
Yes, emphasis on the little, because
it's your knees. You're lucky you can get up off of it.
It's the first time I sat down. I'm like, wait a second. But one of the good things is they do have a handicap rail in there. And it's also one of those little square ones, where you got the walls on 3 sides and a brick wall or a concrete wall behind you. So by raising my arms up as high as I can reach one of the actual walls and also one of the guardrails, or I call them guardrails. They're actually handrails.
Yeah.
And then literally pull myself up off of said throne.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Mom, it wasn't what I expected years ago, but that's kind of the way things go right now. And thank goodness that I'm at least able to do that and don't have to, as Case mentioned, go portalette or go in and introducing myself to the neighbors who I rarely talk to and saying, "Hey, how you doing? You mind if I come in and poop? Good to see you." How? No. But yeah, that's kind of crappy material. So we'll go we'll go ahead and move on from that.
I
Then.
see what you did there.
Yes, thank you very much, as
It
Jeff.
was so veiled.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's these things too shall
shall
pass.
pass. Yeah, okay.
Yes, okay, another one. But yeah, let's go ahead and get off a shitty subject, so to speak, and uh, move on into the next
Oy.
phase of the show. That's our scheduling and Twitter information, where Case Hoskins has pulled up his area that he reads from on that, and he will certainly guide us through what's going on in the week ahead for Cardinal women's athletics. So, Case, the room is empty. Go ahead and take your place.
Yeah, so it's a busy one this week. Men's tennis is split right now, 4 in the fall in Alabama. Half the team there, and then other part of the team at the Men's All-American Championships put on by the ITA. Here at home, lacrosse hosting the, or not lacrosse, cross country is hosting the Live and Lou Classic. That one over at Tom Sawyer, I believe. Available on Flow Track, which is like Flow Volleyball or Flow Sport. They really milk the money out of you if you have to pay for each individual sport there.
Mm.
Um,
Good old Flow.
but if you would like to pay money to watch cross country on TV, I would recommend that instead you just drive over to East Louisville and
Yeah.
get your fill that way, because you'll probably get a better viewing experience, and it'll cost you a lot less.
Yep. And it's a beautiful day, so you know.
Yeah, fantastic.
You better head out though, because it'll
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
end soon.
Probably almost over.
Football is at Boston College. Somehow, some way, a 14-point favorite over the Eagles. That one's at noon on the ACC Network. So a game I can watch, and not a game that is on regional or on Fox Sports, Bally Sports. whatever.
Unless you're on Dish Network, apparently.
Well, nobody can watch Bally Sports, basically.
Well, yeah, but like Dish Network has had a falling out with Disney, so all the ESPN channels are unavailable. Yeah.
Well, that's odd.
Yeah.
Disney was like, "Hey, stop with the gambling TV
I don't
channel."
know.
I guess
It's just one of those carriage agreements that expired, and I'm sure they're negotiating, and everybody's trying to put themselves saying, "Well, we're more important than you are," and all that stuff. But
yeah. So it goes.
Yeah.
Women's soccer, the first women's sport that Polly alluded to. I got around to it. Cross country has women's. Women's soccer is at number 14 Pitt tonight at 7. That one has a watch length, so that'll be on ACC Network Extra, I believe. Cards with their third straight ranked matchup, so they'll look to have a better result in this one than the others. Both of those men's tennis events continue tomorrow. And field hockey is still in Virginia. They move over from Charlottesville to Richmond. They'll take on VCU. That matches at 12:30 on ESPN Plus. Volleyball takes on Georgia Tech. That one is at home in the L&N Federal Credit Union Arena. Probably a sellout.
I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah.
I don't even think you can get SRO tickets, can you? In a place like that, I don't know where you'd stand.
Maybe a few
on that upper mezzanine.
Yeah, maybe a few, but not many. Cracking down on it.
Yep. So they bring in the 11th ranked Yellow Jackets. That one is at 1 p.m. It'll be on ESPN. As I put in the article, that's the first match of the day. So Louisville not in danger of being overrun by the leading match. Yeah. Men's tennis ITA All-American Championships continue all the way through the rest of the week, so I'm not going to mention that one anymore. Women's and men's golf start the Blessing Collegiate Invitational in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Both of those events go through Wednesday. Women's soccer returns home next Thursday, October 6th. They'll take on Clemson. That one will be on ACC Network Extra and also free in Lynn Stadium. Women's tennis heads to the West Virginia Invitational Thursday, taking on probably a host of teams at the WVU Invite in Morgantown. Field hockey stays on the road, presumably bringing themselves back to Louisville for a few days before making the trip, but they'll go down to Winston-Salem and take on Wake Forest at 6 p.m. on Friday evening. And volleyball will I guess, pass the football team in the air as they head up to Chestnut Hill to take on Boston College at 7:30 on next Friday. As for the Twitter accounts, I tweet as best case scenario, BST case scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared, who's not with us today, is at Mr. Anderson Jared. And Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. As always, you can check the right side of the Cardinal Couple website for the running Twitter widget and for all of the U of L women's athletics tweets and schedules, along with results. Polly keeps those up. So if you missed anything that I was talking about, there are multiple ways to find it, and the easiest way to get it in one consolidated place is the Cardinal Couple website.
That's right. Go to Cardinal Couple. You can check out that right-hand side of the site and also catch up on our daily articles as we bring you a lot of good and relevant information about the sports that we're following this fall and some of the sports that are coming up. Just kind of wanted to mention Jared begged off today. He's going to some holiday World, I think, some amusement park, which, okay, if that's where his priorities be, that's fine.
It is claiming it's listening in. So, hi, Jared. How are you?
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. I'd be very surprised if he's listening in. So,
If anybody made it through the opening act there, then
yeah,
more power to him.
yeah.
yeah,
I will say, Katie came out last night to volleyball with us, so sat with us and enjoyed it. To jump back briefly to Hurricane Ian, obviously went back out into the Atlantic Ocean, re-strengthened into a hurricane, and came back on shore in South Carolina, where some of her family is, among other people that we know. We have other readers from there as well. So let's not forget that it's not just Florida that's being impacted by this.
absolutely. Yeah, it made a left turn once it reached the Atlantic Ocean and came back on board and went through Charleston and some of the others down
less severe at that point, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, it had lost a little bit of its oomph that it had in Florida, but certainly hopefully our friend Arthur down in Greer is doing okay. And don't know if they had to pull out or not. I haven't heard from him. We'll see if they did or not. I kind of doubt they had to, but then again, you never know with it. He's a ways away from the Atlantic, so I don't think storm surge is going to be an issue for him. But the rain, the rainfall could, from what I understand, could be pretty heavy. So
yeah,
we'll find out on that.
Katie said that her family was describing just big storms, right? Nothing super terribly critical, but storms and a lot of rain. So
yeah, for sure, big storms. We're no stranger to those in Kentucky from time to time, but at least it doesn't have the tornadic outbreaks and everything else that go with it. And wouldn't want to reason with hurricane season anymore.
Yeah,
not ready to go with that. But our other thing I was going to mention. Daryl not with us as well. She's although she did a nice write in the Friday Cardinal Couple. She is begging off today to help her parents in a yard sale, and she will be assisting in that. So if you know where Daryl's parents live, go over there and buy a bunch of stuff. and picker with the price on them too, because you'll probably get a good deal.
Heck of a day for a yard sale.
Yeah, beautiful day for it. I'm sure they're popping up everywhere today. I would think, and I haven't had a yard sale in quite some time, but certainly it's very interesting just to people watch at a yard sale and to see who stops by to sample and view your wares that you have available out there. So you can have quite an afternoon just watching who pulls up into the driveway and looks around. But let's get on out of that stuff and then get on into other things as we are going to get into a little bit of field hockey action. We'll start out with today. The Cards fifth ranked in the latest NFHCA poll in Division One. We're, as mentioned, in Virginia on the blue turf. That's right. There's nothing wrong with your color on your laptop. It is a blue turf, and they originally have named it Turf Field. Nice job, Virginia, with the very, very accurate description of where you play. Where do you all play at? Oh, we play over at, Traeger. Where do you all play at? turf field. Nicely done. But it is blue. And the ball, I don't know if it makes any difference, if you're playing on a blue turf or a green turf, whether the ball shows up any better on either one of the two. Uh, I was able to follow better on a blue turf, but I'm not suggesting by any means that the Cards switch over to that. Obviously, Louisville couldn't follow the ball very well, though, as they fell 2-0 to number 7 ranked Virginia, a match that was actually moved up, as case mentioned, to 1 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock because they were expecting some pretty significant weather to come their way up there in Charlottesville. So they said, hey, why don't we just move this whole thing up and get it in and get it out of the way before the heavy stuff comes in. The Cardinals, who are obviously not used to waking up at 1 p.m. on a Friday, said nay, but they showed up anyway and took a 2-0 loss to those Cavaliers. Case, this was one kind of where Louisville just never seemed to really get fully involved and engaged in this thing. It was kind of sad, really.
Yeah, and I think Sowery said it best in the postgame when she called their start conservative, passive, and reactive. She was a bit happier with how things turned out later in the match, how Louisville started playing in the second half, but Virginia's not ranked number 7 for no reason, and when you give up a goal in the first 2.5 minutes on the road, it's going to be a bit of a battle to overcome that. So, Louisville just it kind of wasn't there. Beaten in shots on goal, had a ton of corners, even had a penalty stroke, just unable to put the ball in the back of the cage, and that's not really what you want to see. Louisville's outscored 0-5 in ACC matches so far, and outscoring their opponents 20-5 in all their non-conference matches. But you got 4 more of those ACC matches to go, so you're going to have to start doing something to avoid, a first-round matchup against North Carolina or something.
The Cavaliers, it looks like Jeff got their scoring out of the way early. As Case mentioned, a goal at the 2:26 mark in the game, and then also scored with about 4 minutes left in the first quarter to take that 2-0 lead on Louisville, and the rest of the contest remained scoreless. Certainly the Cards did take a couple of shots, but they ran into a very, very good freshman goalkeeper that the Cavaliers had, and more importantly, the Cards just could not seem to get anything working on the penalty corners. They actually had a penalty stroke. A wonderful opportunity to score there.
Those are almost automatic. I mean, well, not
They
quite,
are.
but it's.
Oh. I'd say they're
wildly more difficult than a penalty kick in soccer.
Yeah.
And weren't able to convert on that, and it was just there was frustration just watching this thing, saying, "Come on, y'all."
Yeah, I didn't get the opportunity to watch it because it was during the day I was working. But both scores for Virginia were on open play, nothing on penalty corners. They only got 1 penalty corner the whole game, so we played cleanly. We weren't fouling, but it just was when we got 5 penalty corners, and when you don't convert on any of those, that's tough. Those are prime scoring opportunities. We've talked about how much difficulty this team has with penalty corners over the past couple of years, and it's certainly showed in yesterday's game. So
the Cards, I guess, looked at the start of the fourth quarter and said, we got to do something here. We're still down 2-0. They were able to actually get up 6 shots in the final quarter there, with getting 3 shots off 4 penalty corners, and then one that the aforementioned penalty stroke we talked about earlier, which failed, but none of the shots that they got off of the 6 were able to get to the back of the net, and consequently the Cards remained scoreless in this contest against a Virginia team that, yes, they're good. I'll give them credit for that. Yes, they are in the ACC, which is, I think, in my opinion, by far the toughest conference, although Big Ten people may debate that with you. Well, guess what? We beat IU 2-0 Big Ten, so take that, okay? We beat Michigan 2-1 Big Ten, so take that. How about your Penn State? Yeah, no problem. We took care of them 2-1. So don't come bragging to me about how good Big Ten soccer field hockey is, because we're 3-0 against it. So, in any event, my rant done there. One of the things that I think Louisville needs to do, though, in what they're trying to get done right now is that they need to find something that's going to work for them as far as getting sets where they can score.
Mm.
There seemed to be a lot of back and forth, and then I don't know if you guys have noticed it or not. Maybe you didn't see it yesterday,
Mm.
but once you get into that final 25 over there, we seem to be confused a lot of the time on what we were going to run and play. Okay, now you can attribute that to good defense. Obviously, good defense will break up any great offensive pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, there's not that one player that's stepping up and saying, okay, this is on me. Katie Snyder had a quiet day. Not much happening for her. Amy Plum, none of them were there actually, you know, putting the ball in the back of the net. And I think it's something that the Cards are going to have to work on, Case, because VCU, okay, maybe we get by that one, okay, but then all of a sudden here comes a very good Wake Forest team, a ranked Liberty team, and then Duke, 3 in a row, which I think will be quite tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Louisville has a pretty varied offense this season, which is something that we've wanted to see and we were hoping for uh, with the departure of some recent go-to players on that end. But like you mentioned, um, despite the variability in the offense, it has been one of those things where it's like, okay, who are you going to in an offensive position? Julie Coweiser, one of the players of three for Louisville that has 4 goals this season, but she plays defense. You know, most of her goals have come on penalty corners, so she's not the one you're looking to. Amy
She,
Plum,
she had the most shots in this game, though, of anybody.
well, she's got she's tied for the most shots on the team too.
Yeah.
Amy Plum is up there, but you know she's doing a lot of assisting. She scored 3 goals, but she's got 5 assists. It's a lot of players on offense that you know are capable. And with the addition of I don't remember his name right now, but with the addition of the assistant coach that they brought in, you would have expected some more, you know, offensive fluidity. And maybe it's just they're still trying to get that sorted out, the new play, the new offense that he wants to run, and it's a new system for all of them. They're learning it, but you know, you're 10 games into I think a 17 or 18 game schedule, 19 game schedule. Uh, you're halfway through. You've got to kind of figure it out, and you're running out of time to do that. Like you mentioned, you're on the road for 3 more matches. VCU, Wake Forest, and Liberty. Those should all be winnable games before you end up with Duke, Syracuse, and Boston College, 3 more ranked ACC opponents. With some non-conference matches splitting you up there, but you know,
Yeah, but even now, with Polly pointed out, Liberty is not really a break.
Right. Right. But yeah, you gotta see what is gonna happen offensively. Fortunately, Sasha Elliott has been fantastic in goals. She was fantastic yesterday. Despite giving up 2 goals, she had 6 saves, so could have been a lot worse. But the defense is doing, I think, their part. The offense is just not able to capitalize on a lot of opportunities, like we mentioned, especially with missing chances on corners, and you know, a missed penalty stroke is unfortunate. A not converted penalty stroke is tough, but a missed penalty stroke, there's almost no excuse to not put. Just like a penalty kick in soccer, there's almost no excuse to not at least put the ball on frame.
Yeah, get it on
If the
frame.
goalkeeper is going to save it, they're going to save it. But
make the goalkeeper do their job. At least put it on frame.
Right,
Yeah.
don't miss. So that is just, you know, it's not great. But Louisville's, like we said, 8-2. They're still going to be ranked in the top 10 on Monday, assuming they take care of business tomorrow. But
yeah, we would hope so. But yeah, tomorrow against a VCU, and that 8-2 record is fine. I don't know the assistant coach that you had referred to earlier, case Aaron Malachi Mahan, I don't know how much time he's had and how much room he's had to wiggle with here on working with Justine Sauer about installing a new offense for the Cards to run. Justine may have said, "I just need you to coach, and we're going to stay with what we have." But he was at a Cal for a long time
Will
and did a
Holt,
lot
I
of.
think, is the new one I was thinking of.
Oh, you were thinking of Will?
Yeah,
Will's been there a couple years, if I'm not mistaken. And I could be
Yeah.
wrong on that,
Or
but
I
15
think
years.
maybe other way around.
Yeah.
Holt started this year. He was at IU. He was the one that was with IU.
well, let me take another look at something else here then, because I know Malachi came in May of this year.
Oh, well,
Because he
then
was,
it's two new coaches. Maybe that's having to do with our
and maybe that
a little bit of clunkiness.
I don't know why I thought Will Holt had been there longer, but maybe you're right on that. Let me double check it on here just to make sure. Yeah, he came in August of 22. So yeah, he's the latter of the two, joining in the staff then. So he is the younger of the two as far as terms of service go, lengthwise. But it's tough with two new assistants. Sure, I'll give you that. Justine Sauer, though, is an experienced coach, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hope the second half of the season goes better. I guess we'll find out a little bit more when they come out against VCU. I hope and pray that there will certainly be a fire lit underneath our State Girls for this one, because they certainly seemed a little uninspired up in Charlottesville, quite
Yeah.
honestly. But okay, let's leave the stick out there, and let's leave that cage and go to another net, a different type of net, a net that Jeff likes a lot of in volleyball. Yes, the Cards last night were at playing Clemson in the LNFCU. Jeff was up there with Case and also not the Case with Jared. And had Katie sitting next with him up there. How about this one, Jeff? We beat Clemson in volleyball. Some people say it may have said ho hum, but it was a pretty exciting match for a while, wasn't it?
It was. It was interesting, particularly early on. Nobody really expected Clemson to win this. To be really honest, they're not a spectacular volleyball team. They're not terrible, but they're not great. But they made it interesting, at least early on. The first set ended up being really pretty close through most of the set, and it was bizarre looking up and seeing some of the stats that they keep on the scoreboard in the arena, and you see a hitting percentage of 450, 500. I think at the end of the Case said it was 530 something at the end of the first set, and like you look at that and you see Clemson hitting 200 something.
Yeah, it was
You're like,
531 to 293.
yeah, you look at that and you go, this was not a close set. But then you look at the score, and it really was through most of that first set. It was tight back and forth. Clemson led for a good chunk of it. So a little bit of a wake up call, I think, and maybe a little bit of taking Clemson for granted as a win coming into this one, but maybe a little looking ahead to Georgia Tech. But it was a good match early on. That by the end of the second set, Louisville started pulling out a bit of a lead, and then the third set was just not terribly competitive. It was good play.
Not nearly as close as the score implied in the
Yeah, exactly.
21-20 final.
Yeah. And it was, they played well. We are still without the services of Anna DeBeer. Her knee is still
That's what I was
giving her
going to get to.
problems.
What about El Glock being in there instead of?
Yeah, we saw Ellie Glock in the setter position in place of Raquel Lázaro. She's apparently Raquel twisted her ankle, sprained her ankle, something like that in practice or something. Nothing serious. She is, I think, expected to play for the Georgia Tech match tomorrow. Kind of got the impression, this is mostly Jared that gathered this from being down on the floor and being able to talk to people that I wasn't able to talk to, but probably will be back playing, but maybe not at 100% on her ankle. Maybe cut down on her mobility some, but she's so mobile to begin with. I'm kind of not too worried about it. So we'll see how it goes.
It's one of those situations that's kind of weird with the way that Ellie Glock performed.
Yeah, she did fairly well.
If Lázaro is not at 100% and it's noticeable on the floor, you wonder how long Danny Busby Kelly would leave her out there waiting. You don't want to get into like a sunk cost fallacy situation where you're like, well, maybe she'll eventually turn it around. and the rest of the team be suffering for it.
Yeah. And like I saw a few passes last night that a couple maybe, it wasn't a lot, but a couple of them that Ellie didn't get to that, I was going, yeah, Raquel would have gotten to that if she was, out there at 100%. Just because she's just so incredibly mobile. But very few of those. So we have good defense. We get Elena Scott, we get Alexa Hendricks, we get Aiden Bartlett out there who do pretty good passing, who do good digs, can put them on target, so they're not running our setter all over the floor for the most part, which helps. And when Ellie gets a pass in system, she does good things with it. Little bit of a connection issue with Kara Cressy, I think, at this point still, but they're both still getting to know each other a little bit. So PK looked great in the middle when she was playing in the middle there as well. So some good stuff. I think we're still in good shape. Even if Raquel doesn't play tomorrow, I think we have a good team to field out there, and we can still play well and still have a really good shot at beating Georgia Tech. It's going to be a tall order. Georgia Tech's a very good team. They're ranked 11th now, I think, barely out of the top 10. So, credit to Michelle Collier doing great things down there and consistently, bringing in great players. And, we talked about the Killer Bees, Julia Bergman is an incredible player. She's just eating things up. You kind of wonder if they're kind of keying on her a lot, and if we can key the defense on her a little bit and slow her down, then maybe force Georgia Tech to try to do something else for offense, and they may stumble at that. So we'll see. We'll see what the game plan looks like.
We had spoke of Ellie Glocken, of course. She was out there with Lothario at Southern Cal for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So she obviously, I don't know if it was maybe a thing where they kind of both learned off each other, because Lothario obviously a more experienced player as far as time in college goes. But Ellie certainly looked like she, with 34 assists in her first start in a Cardinal uniform. I'm pretty impressed with that.
She did fine. And I watched early, like in the red and black scrimmage and other early matches where we saw some of them, some of Ellie and Paige Morningstar as well. I don't get bothered when one of those two are setting in place of Raquel for whatever reason that may be. They're both very good. They both have good skills. Their timing is working well. They have good connection with most of the hitters at this point. I'm not too worried about it. Raquel is just very good, and it blows my mind that she wasn't a starter at USC. But
of course, when you've got Lothario in front of you,
No. I'm saying Lothario was not a starter at USC.
Who was the starter?
I don't know
maybe
her name.
I'm wrong then.
Yeah,
I thought she was, but okay, maybe I'm wrong.
No, Lothario and Glock both were basically on the bench the whole time they were out there.
Huh.
So I think Glock was actually redshirted last year. So
that could be part of it. Because she's listed as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, but Lothario was not the starting setter at USC, which blows my mind. Right?
She's getting her shot now. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, we've talked a lot about this Cardinal defense and how good it can be, and certainly the abilities they've got. Case Clemson hit a mere 179 as a team against Louisville. Okay, that's we, as Jeff and I and you and I have compared it before, it's like a batting average.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hitting around 300, that's pretty good. That's not bad. 179 really gives credit, I think, to the Cards actually doing some great things at the net.
Well, it wasn't really at the net yesterday. Louisville just kind of forcing Clemson to make poor decisions, I think, on their attempts. They hit pretty well in the first set, that 293, like I mentioned, almost in that 300. But like you said, they come down to 190 because they hit 107 in the second and 139 in the third. Louisville only had 5 blocks. So they weren't getting to a ton of them, but Louisville's blocked really well this season. So the threat of the block is there, and just because they hit around you, you don't get an actual block statistic if they hit around you and hit it wide.
Or touches where you touch it and just deflect it upwards, right? That doesn't count as a block.
Put yourself into a good position where then you're hitting I guess you start your play better.
Right.
And I think that part of it, if you look at the second set in particular, Clemson was a little bit on the back foot with Louisville's offense. Louisville hit 303 in that one, and Clemson only ended up
Well,
putting up 28 attempts.
let's put this correctly. They were on the back foot with Claire's offense.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah. But they only had 28 attempts, so they were really
Yeah.
out of system and out of sequence in that second set with Louisville just kind of battering them a bit,
Yeah.
as it were. But yeah, Louisville's blocking was like I said, not there on the stat sheet. But Jeff, was it any more noticeable in person?
They had a lot of touches and a lot of tips, like you mentioned. That you tip it, pop it up into the air, and you give your defense and Lena and Alexa a better time to get under it and get a good clean pass. That's always good.
You almost create a free play.
Yeah, you
rather
almost
than
create a
being
free
given one.
ball instead of trying to dig a hard hit shot. So that makes a difference, and that doesn't get caught in the stat sheet. That doesn't show up. So yeah, I mean, but shout out to Elena Scott, our libero, who is just doing great things. Michaela Chester with the NCAA.com put out this week the top, her estimation, the top 10 liberos in the country, and Elena was number 2 on that list. So credit to her for really anchoring that back row and that defense. That helps so much to be able to transition back to an offensive footing when you get a good dig and a good pass. So, but yeah, the blocking helps with that. Even if you're not getting the credit for the blocks, the tips and the deflections help.
She's number 2. The Cards are number 2. A nice correlation there. But just to kind of give you all a general idea, if you missed this thing, a recap on it. The first match was very, very close, as we mentioned here. This thing was tied up at 21-21 in the first set, okay? But the Cards did eventually kind of pull ahead. They got a 23-22 lead and then won it 25-22 and finished out in very nice fashion with a kill from Aiko Jones and also from Nina to make it. The Cards hit 531 in that first set, and buddy, that's pretty fine. Claire Chaussee had 7 kills and hit 875. So that's pretty good. That's pretty nice, isn't it? Gee, that's pretty good.
I mean, for the match, it was 19,
Yeah, I mean, this,
31,
31
with 2 errors. That's a pretty impressive tally overall.
Kind of like the old 1950s duck and cover, because Claire's got the ball.
She's just there were several plays that like just the individual play. You watch it, they'll be scrambling, they'll be out of system, both teams out of systems, and hitting balls. And Clemson dug a couple, and then eventually Claire's just like, oh no, it's enough of this. Just plow and slammed it down.
Louisville almost had all 3 outsides go for double digits, and all 3 did hit over. Nina was the lowest with 286.
Yeah, she had 9, 286.
9 on 21 with three errors. I mean, it was pretty good hitting for the outsides.
Yeah, and Aiko did hit 11 kills on 19 attempts. So that's 474. That's pretty impressive too.
Very impressive.
So yeah.
Hey, we got to give you talked about Elena Scott and her defense. Give her some credit. She hit 1,000, 2 for 2.
She got 2 kills. Yes, indeed. Which is always fun for a
quite
libero.
Quite abnormal for the libero to get kills, especially both of them.
Yeah.
Both of their attempts.
She was doing her part. There
That's
you
right.
go. But after that first set where the Cards pulled away late, they basically didn't have a lot of trouble in the second set at all. They jumped out to a 3-1 lead. They had pushed that out to 8-4. Clemson decided to take a timeout and talk about that, but Louisville was still up 11-8. Louisville still up 14-11, and then went up to 16-11. Clemson decided once again, hey, that's a 3-0 run by the Cards here. Let's kind of take a timeout and talk about this a little bit. Down by 5 late in the set, but it was still 21-15 Cards very, very late in the set. Louisville went on to take this thing 25-19. So that was a little more convincing win than in set 1, as Louisville got the open net kill from Claire Chaussee in the second set. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So 2-0, halftime break. They go in, set three. The Cards ran into a determined, I think you could call it Clemson team in set three. They jumped out with a 3-1 lead over the Cards. Then the Cards came back to get a 4-4 tie, and then it was still tied at 8-8. Clemson not ready to go home yet. They had pushed that thing up to an 11-9 lead, but then the Cards just swing it around. They go up 12-11, and then they really take off. And a nice ace from Tillman made this thing 17-12. Louisville. The Cards then kind of fell down a little bit. It became 17-15. A little timeout there by Louisville to kind of get things straightened out a little bit. And you don't lead charges and cheers on the Louisville timeouts, Jeff. So
No.
were you sitting there nervous on that one?
A little bit. There's that. And there's also a media timeouts when the first team gets to 15.
Right.
We had a couple of those last night. So, yeah, I don't typically. Sometimes will in the media timeout if Louisville just has a lot of momentum, and the media timeout happens to fall in the middle of that, I'll go ahead and do it then. But yeah.
But Cards able to extend that to 21-17, and then a kill from Chauncey made it match point at 24-18, and they took this thing 25-20 on a kill from, and I ruined what I was going to say. I'll let you guess who had the final kill.
Yeah. Shocking.
Yeah, gee. Could it have been Claire? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was Claire in the air who made it 25-20. The Cards, a 3-0 sweep over the Clemson Tigers. So let's, with that firmly in the rearview mirror and another win for number 2 Louisville, let's look just briefly, guys, if we can, at what's going to be going on tomorrow night as the Killer Bees come to town. What do we know about them, Jeff? What do we fear about them?
As I said earlier, they're a very good team. They're ranked 11th. Michelle Collier has done great things with that team down there. Julia Bergman is a phenomenal individual player. I think there's some ability if Louisville wants to attack and just slow her down, make sure you're putting up a good block on Bergman, then you're going to force the team to try to get their offense going somewhere else, and that may cause a little bit of more challenge for them. Obviously, the coaching staff's looking at a lot more video than I am, so we'll let them decide the game plan. But that's probably where I would start to initially look. They're a very good team. It's them, us, and Pitt, kind of at the top of the ACC for the most part for the past couple of years anyway. And it should be an interesting one. This one is on ESPN. This is part of the flurry of volleyball matches that ESPN has decided to air on their main channel, which is a big deal for the exposure to volleyball in general. There were only 4 between 1995 and the beginning of this year, 3 before the beginning of this year, and now there's been 5, 6, 7 maybe at this point already, if you include tomorrow's 2 matches. So they're definitely seeing a lot of attention on volleyball and the support and the crowd. We've seen 2 attendance records set this year, back-to-back weeks, and for in-person attendance, plus TV viewership is way up. So it's great for the sport overall. It's a growing sport. So it's great to see, and it's great to see ESPN supporting it like they are.
Let's just knock out that back wall over there that doesn't lead to the locker rooms. Put
Yeah.
bleacher seats up there.
Man, I don't know. We need to do something because it's
It's a bit close and moist in there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's we're seeing I post on Volley Talk periodically, and they're talking about, there's a lot of chatter on there about attendance and TV viewership, and they're talking about this team needs to build a bigger arena because they only seat 4,000, and I'm like, yeah, we barely top 1,000 here. So somebody commented about, well, gosh, Louisville's way down that list with only about 1,000. I said, well, it's because that's capacity for us. They're like, what, really? Like, yeah, for real. So it's definitely, it shocks people when they realize that you got this team that's been a top team in the country for the past couple of years only plays in a gym that only seats a little over 1,000 people. They're pretty shocked at that. So
those old prophetic words: if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Yeah.
So find some money, Louisville. Give volleyball a
Yeah,
little
it
bit
just
of
takes
attention.
some time to do it. I get it. Somebody was talking about how can a team this good as Louisville, play in a gym that size. I said, well, you got to remember, top level, national level prominence for Louisville as a volleyball squad is a relatively recent thing. It was only 3 years ago that we beat Texas in Gregory Gym in the Sweet 16 to advance to our first ever Elite Eight match. Right? It's only been 3 years.
And that's weird to think about too. Like when you
Right.
think back on, the teams that Louisville has had and the players that Louisville's had.
Had some really good players in there. Yeah.
Right. It's weird to be like, yeah, but they didn't have, success. They didn't have national success.
Yeah. So you put it that way on the forums like that, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's like, yes, we have success now. I think they're probably looking at building a bigger facility, but it takes a few years to get through that process just to do it. So
Got a pretty nice place sitting across the street over there in the fairgrounds, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So we'll just drop that right there, and
Kind of already gave it away.
yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Let's move on to the final.
Well, I
sport.
wanted to point out
Go
one more
ahead,
quick
Gage,
thing
go
about
ahead.
the match
Go
tomorrow.
ahead. Sure.
So the winner of tomorrow's match is going to join Pitt at 4-0.
Yeah.
Louisville has a really big opportunity if they can win tomorrow. Then, one of those, if they win tomorrow and Georgia Tech, then gets Pitt the next week, Louisville could be in the driver's seat in the ACC. If Georgia Tech's able to beat Pitt after Louisville beats them. So there's a lot kind of on the line for so early in the conference schedule.
And there are 4 teams in the ACC that are undefeated right now. It's Pitt, Louisville,
Yeah,
Georgia Tech,
Syracuse
and
is-
Syracuse. Syracuse will not stay there, but
it's like Miami when we talked about it last week. Miami was there, and it was like one of
And
these
now-
things is not. One of
I
these
haven't.
things is
Yeah,
not like
no,
the
right.
others.
Exactly. I haven't looked. Has Pitt played both their matches this weekend?
Yeah, they're 4-0.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that they were a match ahead because they play tomorrow. They play Highview or something.
Okay, so they're doing some sort of off.
Yeah, they've got a non-conference match tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay.
High Point, maybe.
High Point. Yeah.
Highview is right down the street from
Yeah,
me.
so-
Yeah.
Which would be fun. I could drive right down the road and watch it. They might. No,
Yeah. So they
You're gonna play the local community team.
no Moore High School. Right in the middle,
Oh,
in the
yeah.
heart of Highview. Yeah, right there, buddy.
So in conference, they've beaten North
Well.
Carolina, NC State, Virginia, and Duke. They haven't really hit high. Maybe North Carolina, but they haven't really hit the powerhouses of the conference yet. Duke's not bad, but yeah. Interesting.
We'll see what happens for them. They are number 2 in the nation right now, and certainly a win tonight would help them, or a win
I think he's
tomorrow.
talking about Louisville.
Do that, yeah.
Yeah.
A win would help Louisville continue being number 2
Yeah.
in the nation for sure, and then wait to see what crumbles above them, if anything.
Yep, it'll be interesting. It's going to be a race for those top 3 spots, particularly.
Georgia Tech, I guarantee you, will not come in and lay down to the Cards.
No, they won't.
This one should be a fun one, so make sure and catch that one on the 4-letter network, ESPN. I did want to get to a little bit of soccer, and I know we kind of neglected soccer a little bit last time, women's soccer, so I wanted to try to give them, a few minutes here just to kind of talk about them a little bit and what's going on with them. They have had a yeoman's task, I think you could call this very easily, out on the road lately. Unfortunately, had to play 2 opponents that obviously are very, very good opponents that are in the top 10 in the nation, and you had to go down and basically take them on, and pretty much on their turf, unfortunately, in the case of you take a look at Florida State, and then they went to Virginia over there.
And it doesn't really get any easier today.
That's the whole thing I was leading to, yeah.
Yeah.
You get a top 25 opponent today at Pitt. We had mentioned this early on, back in early September, about this road trip was really going to kind of define a little bit how Louisville women's soccer was going to shape up for the year. Well, early and middle trends are indicating that the Cards are just not going to be a ACC contender. And maybe I'm jumping the gun here after all. We do still have 7 conference games starting with Pitt tomorrow. okay, there's a chance that they could roll back and win 6 or 7 of these. But starting with Pitt today, that's one that I have, you know, a little bit of hesitation about. I think Pitt's a very good team, Case, and I know Pitt has obviously played quite well this year. The Cards have, Louisville's been kind of lacking here when you take a look at what they've done. And let's go back and take a look at the last 5 games. Last 5 games, the Cards have only scored 2 goals.
Yeah, the offense has really kind of fallen off from what it was at the beginning of the season, which was not a ton early on. You didn't have one of those games really throwing off Louisville's scoring totals like we've had in the past. They didn't have any of those big 5 or 6-0 wins against a much lower tier opponent. The best candidate I think for that would have been either UIC or at NKU. They started out good with that home opener against UIC, winning 3-0. But then when they took on Northern Kentucky, only beat them 1-0. 2-0-0 draws. Only beating Miami 1-0. It's not been ideal for the offense so far on this road trip, like we talked about. Florida State was really unfortunate. A 1-5 loss. It was much more encouraging against Virginia. They held the Cavaliers out of the goal for 75 minutes. Ultimately wilted late, and then gave up a second goal, trying to claw back a draw against the team that was ranked second in the country. So it was more encouraging. I don't expect a result tonight against Pitt. I think that, but I don't think that is the end of the world. If you don't get a result tonight and you come away with this road trip with no points, not no goals, but no points in the table, that would be unfortunate, but not necessarily unexpected. But after this road trip ends, Louisville doesn't have any currently ranked teams remaining on the schedule. So, which I think is weird, and maybe they just don't have their names on there because they don't put the ranked. I would think that Duke or North Carolina is ranked right now, so that may not be true.
Definitely
But
think UNC might be, but yeah.
But they get 3 winnable matches in a row at home after this road trip. You've got Clemson, Boston College, and Notre Dame. So if you put up a good fight against Pitt, like I said, maybe you don't get a result, but if you can get some momentum before coming back for a homestand in the last month of the season, Louisville still could, like you said, recover and win maybe 4 or 5 of their remaining matches and maybe get a draw or 2 in some of the others and still make the ACC tournament. I mean, that's what you're going for, make the ACC tournament. Right now, we're not really considering this team to be NCAA tournament caliber or bubble, but you'd like to make the conference tournament and see what you can do from there. So I've not given up on the team. The fall off of the offense is unfortunate, but it's been against 2 really tough teams in the last 2 matches, and like we've talked about, it's tough today too. So we'll just see what happens tonight, and then how things improve come next Thursday.
Obviously, the measure of your team is how you play against good teams, and unfortunately, the Cards, the last couple of times, Florida State just basically ran away with that one down there, and then that's fine. That's good. Florida State was ranked 7th at the time, and I think they're a much better team than 7th in the nation, based on what I saw. Of course, they were playing us. So
well, and Florida State's always had a really good offense.
Yes, they have.
And Louisville, we talked about it last week some. Louisville does not have a good history against good offenses. She doesn't listen, so I'll say it here again for everyone else that does. Karen Ferguson does not make good decisions playing high-powered offenses. Parking the bus early in a match against a team like Florida State on the road is a recipe for losing. You're not going to pull a draw out of that. And in many cases, you'll give up 5 goals. They did against Florida State this year. They did against North Carolina last year. Um, Stop doing it. If it's not working, then just play your game and see what happens. It's too reactive to a good offense, and I think that Virginia does not have nearly as good of an offense, and you saw that Louisville, held them scoreless for a long time playing their regular game. The discouraging part of last week's match against Virginia is Louisville didn't put any shots on frame. It's 6 shots, and none of them were on target. Um, Held UVA to only 8 shots, but both of their shots that were on target went in the back of the net. So not great, but better than
No.
parking the bus and giving up 5 goals.
Yeah, pendulum soccer, as it's called sometimes, where the ball goes from the left to the center and then to the right and back to the center and back to the left, back there, not crossing the half court line, trying to work and get the good shot and everything else like that. Yeah, you need to get some proactive advancement here, okay? We need to see some. And I know they're not going to put up 5 or 6 goals a game. The Cards aren't that kind of squad this year. They're not going to do that. But would like to see them at least get 1 or 2. So let's hope that they can do that as well. After Pitt, they come and they've got 3 nice ones at home, I think, which we can cheer for them. We can hope they do the best. Clemson, Boston College, Notre Dame, get out, yell for them, roar for them, see what you can get done for them. Let's hope that they can pull those off, guys. But all right, I think that's pretty well got us to where we're ready for some final remarks here, some closing comments as we've covered the 3 major sports that we are following this fall. So we'll go ahead and start it on out with Jeff on final thoughts.
Yeah, I just again shout out to ESPN for giving volleyball a chance this year in a big way. I think it's paying off for them, and it's great for the sport. We kind of talked about it a little bit already, but this is just as a volleyball fanatic as I have been for a while. It's just really great to see it happen and finally kind of get a bit of a break. And I know there's some challenges with scheduling volleyball matches because of the variability of how long they can go, but ESPN's giving it a shot. They're making it work pretty well, and they're giving some really good coverage of it and bringing a lot of people in. And it's you look at stands at LNN FC Arena, and they're filled with people pretty much. It's helping everybody. It's that rising tide lifts all boats sort of thing.
That's right. The lights are brighter on Broadway, but the Cards haven't needed sunglasses yet as they're performing well on that main stage. Case, what you got for me?
We were talking about soccer, and Nuke Denton, good sophomore defender for the Cards, from England, is been called up to play with the U23 squad over there. So after tonight's game, she's actually going to travel back to England. So we talked about those winnable matches upcoming for Louisville. They're going to have to play 2 of them without Denton. She'll be gone through the 11th of October is when that U23 training camp ends. They've got 2 matches against Norway and Sweden next week and the following. So Louisville will miss Denton for Clemson and Boston College, but it's still a great honor to be called up to play for your national team, and wish her all the best in that. And it's a credit to Louisville's program. It's unfortunate to lose players during the season for things like this, but it's a credit to the program to get those players in the door in the first place.
It is indeed, and certainly Nuke has been one that we've loved watching out there running the turf at it, Lynn, and hopefully she'll continue to do that quite well for the Cards, and congratulations to her on that big move. As far as me, final thoughts just a little bit. I'm going to kind of keep it in the vein that we've talked about here in the last hour or so, and saying that these fall sports right now, you've got to give the Cards a lot of credit. They have got 2 out of their 3 major fall sports teams in the top 10 without any problem whatsoever. These teams need your support. I know that with volleyball, it's a matter of, where we'd like to go, but there's no room in there in for us. We can't get in there and watch it. That's good. Keep doing that. Keep showing up for that. field hockey, come on, let's get out there and support this field hockey squad out there at Traeger. There's plenty of seating available. I know sometimes the matches may be just a little inconvenient as far as time goes, but this is a program that's in the top 10, top 5 in the nation, and they really need your support out there. So when they come back home, you get out there, please, and join me out there in watching them play because not only are they a very, very good team that's got a lot of good things going for them, but you're going to see some really, really good field hockey out there when they finally get home here in a couple weeks, as they'll be playing Duke, and they'll also have Syracuse coming up. Some very good matches, and maybe an easy win, although Liberty's no pushover. So 4 in a row once they finish at VCU. Come out and watch those Cards play field hockey. You'll have a great time. I guarantee you will. But so that will wind us up for another week as we thank you all for listening today, and certainly we'll join you next week at 11 a.m. unless you know something I don't for our next edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour. Everybody have a great weekend.